Many must be wondering what a bank is doing in this. Normally, in a gathering like this, I'm often at ease trying to talk about banking and trying to talk about what is happening in the industry. This morning, looking at the audience and reflecting on what the day is set out for, I'm wondering whether I'm equipped to address a session like this. But having said that, let me share what we in the bank and and equally personally what is exciting us and why we believe we should be very closely and intricately woven into what appears to be one of the most fascinating opportunities in our times. About a year and a half ago, in one of our bank's board meetings, a director of ours, when we were reflecting on around the time the new Companies Act mandated 2% spend on CSR, and the discussions were around what areas we should focus on and how does the bank position itself for CSR. And invariably the discussions tend to be around let's focus on childcare, health, education, and that was the time the Swachh whole program was getting into full flow. So the natural choice was to try and focus on all those things. While we did not dismiss those thoughts, one area that occurred to many of us on the board is keeping the bank's core strength of where we came from, where we are positioning our bank, where we want to believe that we want to be. Our stated position as a bank is we want to be the most admired middle market, small, medium establishments, digitally enabled bank. We're not saying we'll be the largest, we're not saying we'll be the most profitable, those are outcomes. We want to be the most admired for certain segments in the market. And we are acutely aware that banks like ours, if we have to be in these so-called market niches or market opportunities, our efforts have to be 360 degrees and the entire value chain from which is what the startup is, where they begin to where they will mature into. And while the investment banking ecosystem serves that very well for certain segments of the market, our belief as a bank is that certain areas are complete blind spots for everybody, and banks that have a rich regional, rural footprint, banks that have been founded many years back but are continuously reinventing themselves, have a better opportunity to go into more grassroots, urban kind of areas and try and find business opportunities that make sense for the bank to support, for the individuals to take it to another league. So I think the choice of being an active participant in that ecosystem sort of almost emerged as a consensus. And then the issue was how do we make this real? How do we take it to another level? How do we become active promoters of this whole spirit of startups? And here I don't mean startups as some two people starting off in a garage and two youngsters dropping out of college. Certainly, yes, that's a rich and interesting opportunity. But we're looking at the people who are looking at talking of changing lives in a meaningful way, talking of real issues being addressed. As a bank, we have over the years, long before startups became more popular or widely spoken of, if you look around, and I'm sure most banks that have a history of 50, 60 years will tell you that so-and-so company started off in our branch in 1955. He was nothing then, and he is now today a mega businessman. Yesterday or 2 days back, we had a large client event in Mumbai, and we met many of our clients who started out in the early 70s in a branch in Andheri, and he says that his office space was my branch. For he did his negotiations with his clients, with his vendors in that location, and then one led to the other. Today he is one of our biggest clients. Equally, is a mega business, and I'm sure there are numerous such examples. So I think the heart of the issue is getting engaged with a client very early in their journey and being neatly packed into that journey, and that's what we are visualizing. It's not visualized as any business outcome that may come to us in the near term. And often people criticize me for being very mindlessly spending money on what may be completely non-value add in the near term. It is true. Sometimes I wonder whether a bank should be in this space trying to do what we are trying to do, because we are saying come use our physical premises, do your stuff. If your idea is great, it has a scope and potential, we will bank you, we will lend to you, we will fund you, we will make you a vendor, we can make you a customer, or all of it, or none of it. But we're not going to get into your lives till you are convinced that you need to come into our lives. So this is a fairly big gamble we are taking, but I firmly believe that if we don't do this, we will be missing something quite material, and importantly, we will not be the bank that we want to be, because I mentioned that we want to be the most admired bank that can make a difference in the lives of people in and around us in certain segments. And to do that, there has to be a certain degree of less of ourselves and more of the client, or more of the vendor, or more of the implementer, or more the idea owner. So we are going headlong into this. Today's event is a big culmination of what we are trying to do in that space. Inside the bank, we talk about, if I had time I would speak at length, but we talk about the dharma of leadership. And here dharma is not used in a very spiritual or in a philosophical sense, but we talk of dharma as in DHARMA. Each of them have a meaning for us as banks. Each of it as a reference to what we want to do as a bank. Naturally, the word D is about disruption, right? And disruption, you and I, everybody here knows that every idea that can take to its real closure has deep impact on existing models. And we are, as a bank, so mindful that every day what you read, what you see, what you experience, fundamentally under our nose things are changing. You may have all be aware, I hope you are, and I hope by end of today you will be downloading Lotza, which is our UPI app. It is going to change the way the payment space happens in India. Make no mistake, I'm sure there are remarkably eloquent speakers like Nandan Nilekani and many others who are associated with that program who have made capital and talking about it to the whole nation. But I wouldn't let an opportunity to go by addressing to you what fundamental disruption an UPI app is going to do to banking, to payments, and how categories of that whole network is going to collapse. It may be, some say the demise of the wallet, some say it should be the version 2 of the wallets, but whatever it is fundamentally talking of how the whole space of payments is getting revolutionized, and in the most convenient manner for an end user. And we are, as a bank, at the forefront of it. We have I think one of the most compelling propositions as Lotza, which is our UPI app, and I would encourage all of you, if you have not downloaded it, to do it, because that speaks to the theory that we are talking of, the dharma of leadership. The first is, of course, D. I can go on, but I'll just talk about a couple of more alphabets on the H and the, the reason I talk about H or speak about it is, we use H in the sense that it's a hashtag world. Now, I'm not talking about a hashtag in the sense that Twitter and stuff like that, but the essence of it is short life. Every hashtag has only that much lifespan. It just disappears before you've completed the thought process around it. And to me, there's a message. As a bank, even as entrepreneurs, as business people, the need to be on our feet almost all the time and never believe that, like I think Sunil Mittal once said, every morning you wake up, the earth below your feet has moved on 4 feet. So I think there is a profound change happening in the ecosystem, and banks or entrepreneurs have to be at the forefront, mindful of the fact that every passing day we may be just ignoring certain realities, and how do we keep ourselves on toes all the time. And through events like this, through occurrences like this, we do hope to imbibe a lot of thoughts which helps us form and shape up our thought. Because what we are doing today is just not the one-off event. We do believe that this can have legs. We want to take it to some of the larger cities, and thereafter even to the tier 2, tier 3 locations, so that we are able to get the whole ecosystem active and play our part as a bank. And of course our partners in Bloombloom and others are making this more real. But our aspiration is to just flood this ecosystem to make sure that we are very much part of this. So I'll just stress on 3 thoughts and just bring this to a close. Certainly, it's the whole theme that we're looking at is what we call the 3I principle. Is initially, we all believe that information is not relevant. It is insight which is relevant. Therefore, what insights we get out of information, which is what the analytics, which is what many of you are probably masters at, and we as a bank have to learn to take that data. We see so much data with UPI and with the whole NPCI activities. We see flow of information like nobody's business. We can see any kind of data, but data per se has no meaning unless it becomes more productive and becomes an insight. And from insight is born the various innovations that all of you are working on. We're stressing that the innovations have to be for life to change on a daily basis. If there's one innovation that all of us can work on is to cut the Bangalore traffic and make life better, I think we would all be early for programs. Productivity will dramatically increase. I left at 8:15 to get here at 10:15. Right? So I think that's the insight is there, information is there, but it's not translating to innovations, and I would think that that's a big area. And certainly, of course, the first two I's of insight and information mean nothing if there's no implementation. So we're trying to stitch the three I's together, live the Dharma principle, and try and see how we as Federal Bank can be very much actively involved in this space. Try and take occasions like this to both learn, to contribute, to work with many of you. Like I said, we are in the space to lend, to fund, to make vendors, to make customers, to just promote the ecosystem. I had originally visualized startups are youngsters who've just come out of college. I just realized now startups are more bald men like me, and my dear friend Vivek and team are here. They're doing, if you've not seen Fortigo, they are a bunch of professionals who've mid-career have kicked up their jobs to set up something quite fascinating. So I realized that this is not something that people just do because they have nothing else to do. I think this is because people do because they want to fundamentally change society, fundamentally change and make impact on things that are meaningful to people in and around us. So I wish this conference a wonderful success, and certainly as a bank we are plugged in deeply into it and hope to catch up with all of you. Thank you very much.